Hello YouTubers, it's Championdjk coming at you again with another video. And Majorette has landed in the United States. And there's been a lot of talk about the price of them being at $3.50 and whether or not that's worth it. So I decided to make a video. We're going to compare basically 8 different diecast brands and kind of talk about the value of them as far as their mid-range line. So this will be everything like from about $3 to about $4.50. And so this is your majorettes right here that we're going to look at. We got your Maisto, some Maisto stuff right there, some Jada stuff, typically around that price range. Auto World Deluxe. We've got M2 drivers we're going to take a look at. We've got the Greenlight Motor World, which these are usually about $5, but the dioramas are usually around $17 for 4 to 5 castings, so it's around that right range in price. And then, of course, we got the big ones, which are Hot Wheels and Matchbox. So that's our 8 brands that we're going to take a look at. There's your Matchbox Premium. There's your Hot Wheels semi-premium line. And, yeah, so there we go. So let's take a look at each one individually. Okay, the first brand that we're going to talk about, of course, is Majorette, because that is what's basically sparked the idea in my head is to do this video, kind of comparing these middle-range brands is what we'll call them. They're not $1 Hot Wheels. They're not, your top-of-the-line Kyosho, Tomica, Limited Vintage. They're not somewhere in the Auto World, premium range, or Johnny Lightning, or, your Greenlight stuff. So what we're going to take a look at first, obviously, is Majorette. These are $3.50 price point, about that anyway, and they are sold at Toys R Us's and some TJ Maxx, Ross stores, Marshalls. In those stores, they're sold in multi-packs. In Toys R Us, of course, they're sold in individual blister packs. They do have some limited releases. There's no necessarily chase per se, but there are definitely some cars that are less common than others. I don't have anything to show you right now. They're unmarked. One of them is a white GTR. So pictures of that have been circulating Instagram and whatnot. But yeah, that is, I guess, kind of a chase piece per se. So that's one of them for this recent series. And so yeah, we're going to take a look at these. So you guys have seen a lot of them probably already on Instagram and whatnot. But here is Majorette packaging. They have 3 different series. The limited edition, the premium cars, and the racing series, racing cars. So all these will have maybe the same cars in each series. Some of them will have cars that will spill over into other series. I think mostly the series that is in is something to do with the deco, as to whether or not it's going to have like racing deco or possibly a premium cars are just the premium cars. Usually they have opening features typically in the premium cars, I believe. And the limited edition could be a mix between the two, the racing cars and the premium edition. Not really sure exactly how they're doing it, but that's how they're doing it somewhat. So these do not have individual cards. The cardboard is kind of bland. It's kind of the same for each series, front and back. The thing that differentiates the vehicles from each other is this little fold-out poster, which will be folded and arranged for the appropriate car that you're looking at. So the Skyline would have came like this, with it folded inside of the package, up in here, and you get the idea. So that's how they package their vehicles. This is kind of a neat idea. But other than that, the packaging is pretty bland, I would say. So there's that. Now, what kind of features? Well, basically, a lot of them have opening doors, which is kind of neat. And let's take a look here. Here's the Skyline right now. This came out of a multi-pack that was found at TJ Maxx. A lot of them have opening features, and a lot of them have lens detail in the headlight area. And they also have rear detail, which is nice. Plastic bases. Some of them have suspension, sprung suspension. Some of them do not. Most of them, though, that have been hitting the U.S., I believe a lot of them do have sprung suspension. This is another one that was found in a multi-pack, Jeep Rubicon. And as far as variety goes, there's quite a bit of variety in their lineup, I suppose. Most of them are sports cars or European sports cars. Again, you do have a little bit of Japanese there, some U.S., and then truck occasionally. So there's that. And like I said, opening features, that's kind of their thing. I believe this top is removable. It's got a trailer hitch on it too, this Jeep Rubicon. And then we got a Dodge Viper. This one's got opening doors. This is another one that was found at a multi-pack. The paint schemes on these shiny ones are pretty cool. It's almost like a Spectraflame-ish type paint. Here's another example of a truck. Again, with the Spectraflame-ish paint. This was another multi-pack find. And then these other three back here, this Porsche. This has a removable top. This is actually removable, which it's really kind of tough to remove. I can't get it with one hand, so I'm not going to do it. And I'm holding a drink with the other hand. But let's try to get it off here. There it goes. Almost got it. There we go. There it is a convertible. That's its kind of movable part. Again, rear detail, front detail. And here's another Skyline in blue, satin finish. And then we got this Lambo with the moving part on this one, or the opening feature is the one on the back. Now there are some of these cars that do not have any suspension and do not have movable features. I did not buy any of those because frankly that didn't interest me, especially at this $3.50 price range. So let me know what you think. Are Majorettes worth $3.50? And how are they going to compare to the rest of the brands that we are going to look at? So this is kind of a little overview of these. Time will tell if they end up being collectible or not. The old Majorettes still go for kind of a bit of a premium, the mint ones on eBay and stuff. So it's kind of interesting. It's a middle-of-the-road brand, kind of between adult collectible and more of just like a toy. So that makes them kind of interesting. So they've been sold all around the world beside here for such a long time, and they used to be sold here a long time ago, and now they've made their resurgence. It will be interesting to see if they are here to stay, if they will sell well or not. I know some people are a huge fan of them already, and some people really could care less. So there is your Majorette. Next brand we're going to talk about here is Hot Wheels. So currently the brand that would fit this category of the, I guess you could say, $3 to $4 range is going to be the Car Culture series. So Car Culture has been running now for almost 2 years. It's at major retailers everywhere. $3.59 seems to be the going price on those. There are no chases at all. They're coming out in basically 5-car segments. And so this is one from the Redliner series, a very popular one, the Gasser, the 55 Chevy Bel Air Gasser. So that's pretty cool. Now, the segments are all having their different card art. Here's a Japan Historics, which was the first segment of Car Culture and a very popular one. This is your 71 Datsun 510 wagon. And so they all have card art unique to the car, which is very nice. And the card art varies quite a bit from series to series. Here is a recent series, the Race Day series, which is your most recent one. Here's an example of card art there. And pretty neat that they do that. Here is the series prior that would be considered in this. It was your Real Rider series. This was before Car Culture, which was a Real Rider series that alternated with Redliners. And that was your premium release for that. So they've always kind of done something in this range, such as like the Boulevard series, the Garage series have all been kind of in this sort of range. Before it was the Cool Classics. I think the Car Culture one is kind of what they're settling on now because it kind of opens them up to doing so much as far as different little segments and stuff. So, pretty cool. Now, no chases in this series. The cars are what they are. There's no chase to go after in it whatsoever. They got quite a bit of variety in castings so far, especially if you go back to the Real Rider series. There's a bunch of cool ones. A bunch of cool trucks and stuff. Here's one of the trucks from the Trucks segment of the Car Culture series. This Ford. This has kind of been a series that has been interesting because it's been a series to debut new toolings and new models. This is one of them, for example. So Fiat. So that's kind of neat. This Porsche was also a new model that debuted in this series. Same with this, I believe, this VW. And this Mazda was also one. They've also been debuting new wheels in this series. This is a new wheel for the series. Same with this one. Same with that one. And I think that's it. But So yeah, new wheels, new castings. That's been kind of cool to debut them in a sort of premium series. Now, as far as features go, they're all metal on metal. There's metal bodies, metal bases. Every single casting in this current series is metal body and metal base, which is very nice. And they all also have real rider tires, rubber tires, which is great. They also have pretty cool liveries and decos. So that is really neat. One thing that they are lacking is none of the cars in the series have front or rear detail. This is kind of a bad example because it's a race car, but there you go. No front detail, no rear detail. Same with everything else basically in the series. Except for maybe this VW. It's got a little VW logo up there. But yet no headlights and no taillights. So that's kind of been how this series has gone and has been the major complaint with it from collectors. But, you know, hey, it's $3.50. You're getting an all-metal casting and all rubber tires. They all roll well. Good quality. There's been some sloppy tampos here and there. They are packaged in a way where a lot of the cards, if you're a carded collector, the cards tend to get damaged very easily the way that they package these cars. Which is all right with me, but probably not all right with a bunch of other people. But it's pretty cool. As far as, is it collectible? Of course it's collectible. It's Hot Wheels. Demand-based, man. I mean, they make tons of these, but a lot of these cars are very desirable. For instance, this one's very desirable. This one is very desirable, obviously. The Datsun Bluebird 510 from the Real Rider series. Again, with this one, they do some popular castings, and in a smart way they do that because people will buy cases of these just to get the really good casting. So I think it's a pretty good value, being metal and metal. Still wish they had headlights and taillights. But yeah, do you like this over the Majorette stuff? I know a lot of you are going to say yes. This will probably be your favorite little mid-range line, will be this Hot Wheels Car Culture line. And I do like it too. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. Okay, the next brand to look at obviously should be Matchbox, the other Mattel brand besides Hot Wheels. So Matchbox has their Best of Matchbox series. Now, Matchbox in the past has had several other little premium series that I'm sure where the cars are more than $1. I'm not familiar with too many of them, but most recently it's been Best of Matchbox. They did also have the Supreme Heroes that came up before this series that had rubber tires and stuff, but I don't think those were too popular with collectors. This Best of Matchbox series has been pretty popular with collectors, so let's talk about that. So the price point of these is usually about $3.50 to $4, so it fits our little thing there. Where can you find them now? Pretty much Meijer in Meijer stores, Toys R Us stores, some other stores. Typically not found at Walmart, however. So packaging-wise, the cardboard. Let's take a look at the cardboard. Here is a current release of the Lamborghini Miura. Very cool little casting. And there you go, Best of Matchbox. The card is actually the same for each car, but they do come with these little collector boxes in the packaging. So there's the box where you can store your little car, and that box is going to determine what car is in there, so it should match the car, obviously. So there's the front, there's the back of that. Nothing too terribly exciting about this packaging. You got a black and orange thing going on, which is a Matchbox color scheme. Which I heard they are going to be revamping their packaging and revamping their logo and all sorts of stuff to kind of modernize it. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that as Mattel tries to maintain market share in the 164 diecast arena. So, here we go. That's your Lamborghini Miura. Here is a couple other castings, of course. This is a very nice Porsche. Very nice color. These have actual Hot Wheels Real Riders on them, rubber tires with tread. These all have plastic bases, metal bodies. None of them have metal bases. Here's a Mercedes. Looks very nice again with Hot Wheels, borrowed Hot Wheels wheels. Which, why not use them? It's Mattel. And why reinvent the wheel and make up more different wheels? Like, these were pretty cool for this truck. This was in a Best of Matchbox, but a lot of people didn't really like these wheels because of the tread on them, how they look knobby. For this truck, it probably fits okay. For this Beamer, not so much. So, really cool that they decided to branch out and use some Hot Wheels wheels. This truck, it looks pretty good too. Land Rover. So, or Range Rover, I should say. So that is pretty cool. Now, they do have quite a wide variety of what they've released so far. It's not just sports cars. You got a VW bus. There is a sports car there, Lamborghini Miura again. Here's the BMW. So they have quite a little variety. They haven't put too many of these out. There's only been 2 different series of the Best of Matchbox. But I think they're going to continue to put out a premium series in some sort. It may not be the Best of Matchbox, but it's definitely going to be something with rubber tires and some nice deco. So pretty cool. The best thing about these, though, is the detail. Very good. Just like their mainline models that are $1, a lot of them are found having headlights and taillights. Yay! They got detail front and back. That is very nice to have. Just like this VW, front and back detail. Every one of these has front and back detail. So no metal base, but hey, they got front and back detail. And I'll take that front and back detail over the metal base any day. So I think these look nice. Definitely a different style than the Car Culture series, and a different style than Hot Wheels altogether, but very nice. Really good quality too. I haven't really found any with like tampo errors or weird stuff going on with them. You know, I haven't seen too many out there, but again, not too bad. So really good quality control. That's awesome. The one thing with them, there's no real hot model. There's nothing that really people are been hoarding or anything out of them yet. But when they release a premium Skyline, I'm sure that'll change. And I'm sure that'll happen too. Why wouldn't it? And obviously there's no chase pieces with this line at all. There's only a few of these mid-range brands that actually have chase pieces. Majorette, I guess you could call it technically one of them, and we'll look at a couple others here yet. But I think it's a very good value for the money. I think they are pretty collectible in the long run. I think they're going to be nice ones to have, especially that they're using Hot Wheels wheels. They do a really good job on this line. I am a big fan of it, and I think a lot of collectors are too. So there's your Best of Matchbox. Let me know what you think of this series. Let's take a look at the next one. Okay, next one we are going to talk about in this video is Greenlight Motor World. Here's a little smattering of vehicles. This is kind of a cheater one because these are the most expensive of the bunch anyway. Typically you find them for about $4.99 actually at Toys R Us. But you can get dioramas that have multiple cars in them for $16.99. Typically they'll have about 4 castings, sometimes 5 castings. And they'll either be all Motor World castings or sometimes they will throw in a Greenlight Premium in their diorama. Typically these are found at Toys R Us and Hobby Lobbies. At least in the U.S. you will not find any of this at Walmart. I think you will maybe sometimes find them too at maybe Meijer stores. I know they do carry some Greenlight. But yeah, so the series is pretty interesting. They do have chase pieces. There are green machines that you can find that are either green body or have green wheels, just like the premium releases. If you find them in a diorama, typically they're going to be raw greenies. Well, they will have no paint on the body, kind of like any other raw that you would find, as far as like an M2 raw or an Auto World raw. But yeah, you can find those, and those are typically how the diorama chases are. The diorama chases usually always have typically green tires. So that's kind of interesting. As far as the packaging goes for the single cars, it's pretty generic. Here is an example. They all pretty much look the same as this. They have some sort of country of origin for the vehicle. This is Japanese edition, Series 15. Here's your Nissan GTR R35. And pretty generic looking packaging, cardboard, small cardboard card. There's the ones that are in this that current series. Or that series, I'm sorry, it's not really current. But there that is. And then here's just a few examples of castings. Here's a Camaro, looks pretty nice. Now as far as variety goes, the Greenlight licensing, they do have some different licenses, especially in the beginning of Greenlight Motor World. The early series of this is actually pretty difficult to find, but I think there's like a Lamborghini in there, some different stuff that you don't see today. This was out of a diorama. This truck. This Cobra was also out of a diorama. Looks pretty cool. Then they do some VWs, do a bunch of different VW vans. They do the panel. They do this one with all the windows, all that stuff. Then you got your Beetle casting, classic Beetle. Here's a Nissan GTR, which this casting is also used in the premium line. Some of these castings do have versions that are released in the premium line with metal bases, and versions in the Motor World lineup that have plastic bases. So typically, yes, they will be highly detailed, almost always, pretty much always. They're going to have headlights, they're going to have taillights. They're going to have all that detail that you'd see on a premium car. Pretty much just like those Best of Matchbox. They're going to have headlights and taillights and some sort of deco. These Motor World cars do come with extra little pieces. Pretty cool. Metal bodies, plastic bases, non-generic wheels. Typical mostly prototypical wheels, I would say, or almost always. And they look pretty nice. Pretty detailed, decent scale. Really good. Okay quality. Actually, this one has, I think, less quality issues, this series, than the premium Greenlight line. Rarely have I found a Motor World car that's had really too many issues as far as with the paint or how it rolls. The premium line, however, I've found lots of cars with some sort of issues, but these ones seem to be pretty good. So that's pretty cool. Is it collectible? Yeah, I would say so, because there's chase pieces in it. So anything with chases is going to have some sort of collectability to it, especially a major brand like Greenlight. So yeah, it is collectible. They really don't have too many castings, though. There's not really a lot of them. Excuse me. So there's not a whole ton of variety. They do, I mean, there's a variety because there's different types of cars, but they really don't have a whole ton of castings. So, and some of those early releases are actually really tough to find, so that does make them collectible, I believe. Good value, but it's the most expensive one in this group. So let's take a look at the next one. Okay, next let's talk about M2. And the M2, their semi-premium release is called the M2 Drivers. They range in price from about $2.97 to $4, depending on where you find them. You can find them at Toys R Us. You can find them at Walmart. You can find them at some Targets, I believe. Some super Targets, some Hobby Lobbies, a ton of releases. It's been out for a while. There are chase pieces, one chase per release or per series. They come in cases of 6 cars, basically, just like Greenlight does. Greenlight comes in cases of 6 cars, but there is a chase for each casting. This has one chase typically per release. As far as the packaging goes, we'll take a quick look. Actually, let's take a look at some stereotypical packaging. They do change it up from time to time, which is really cool. But here's a look at a basic auto driver casting. Typically, it's going to be unique to the vehicle as far as it'll have the logo of the manufacturer up there. Has some other licensing there, or I guess that's all GM stuff. And on the back, it kind of shows you, okay, there's a lot of parts. It's 25 individual parts and pieces to the auto drivers. So kind of showing off that they're using a lot of parts for these. There is a little blurb about the brand there. So M2, I think most U.S. collectors are familiar with, and I think they may be kind of competing with Greenlight as far as I would say they are the most popular aside from your Mattel stuff. And actually, I would think maybe even more popular than Matchbox M2s are. People definitely chase after M2s. Here's another example of card art where this is a little bit different. This is the Black Pearl series, and it's got a very different looking card. It's all black. And they've come out with quite a few different ones since then. This is a really cool casting, the 69 Chevy Camaro Z28 RS. Now, most of their castings have an auto driver version and a premium version. The premium version would have a metal base. These typically have plastic bases, but they do have all the parts. So, they're fairly, as far as variety goes, it's fairly limited to mostly U.S. manufacturer, older models, some trucks, some cars, but mostly older manufacturer and mostly U.S. typically anyway. So now they've come up with the Japan series. It'll be interesting to see if there's a casting that gets released in the auto drivers line from that. But yeah, typically there's a version of this casting that will be in this line and a version of it that will be in the premium line. So yeah, metal bodies, plastic bases. They are screwed to the base in these, just like they are in the premium line, but there's no acrylic cover. They don't typically have any opening features, but they are still made of a bunch of different little pieces, which is cool. They're better quality than the premium line as far as I know. There's less issues with them. However, 2 of these vehicles that you see in front of you do have glued on parts, or parts that I've had to glue on since I've cracked them. This being one of them right here, the tire that's on this. And the front bumper on this I had to glue on. So they're still not without issues. They tend to roll better, though, than their metal base ones. And these all roll pretty good. Definitely better than their metal base counterparts. So pretty neat. Rubber tires, like I said, metal body, plastic base. Better quality than the premium line. They are collectible because they do have a definite good following. A lot of people collect them too. Mostly the chases, though, are the valuable ones. The regular models don't usually climb in value or anything. You should usually get those at fair prices, even on the secondhand market. But pretty good value for the money, I would say, especially since you can get some of them for like $297, $397, somewhere in between there. And you can get yourself a pretty highly detailed little model. This Firebird's really cool. So, that is your M2, and I know a lot of you are probably fans of M2. I'm not a huge fan of M2, but I do like some of their stuff, and the Auto Drivers line I think is a pretty good value for the money. So, there is M2. Let's talk about the next one. Alright, so the next semi-premium line we're going to talk about is the Auto World Deluxe series, and if you watch my videos frequently, you know that I'm a huge fan of Auto World, and I'm going to be biased for these cars. Anyway, they used to be found for about $297 a piece at Walmart's. They also could be found at Hobby Lobbies. Now that they're limited, I haven't seen them anywhere except for on online retailers, and on the secondary market. So anyway, we're going to take a look at Auto World. Auto World does have chase pieces called Ultra Reds. Here's an example of an Ultra Red right here. Typical characteristics are a metallic red paint with some sort of white accenting, which isn't necessarily true for the premium line now. Premium line doesn't generally always have that white accent, but I think the Deluxe line still carries that characteristic. As far as the card art goes on these things, here's just another example of one carded. Here's the newer ones that are now limited. This series was limited to 1256. General card art is a decent design, but somewhat generic, as they don't have unique card art for each car. As you see, there's a Camaro on here, and this is a Firebird. So there is that. Other than that, the card is fairly nice size, and the car is held in there well with a blister, or with a piece that's holding it inside of the blister. So pretty cool, but pretty generic as well. But it's still a nice looking design. So as far as selection goes with Auto World, that's going to be most people's main complaint is you generally are just going to have U.S. manufactured cars. Here's a Camaro, looking nice and black. There's a Viper. All the cars have metal bodies, plastic bases, and plastic tires. And the wheels are generally of only a couple styles. There's that style there, and then there's this style here. And here's an El Camino. So details all around, very highly detailed metal bodies. Very substantial weight to these little cars. And they are supposed to be true to 1/64 scale, which is another feature of this brand. You guys know I'm a huge fan of Auto World. I can't just sit here and talk too positively about them because you guys know I love them. So here's the Buick, here's the regular. This is the regular of the Ultra Red. So pretty cool. Very good quality control on these. You don't see many errors or many errors. You don't see many paint flaws with this Deluxe line. Very good quality control. Very nicely done. Very highly detailed. There is a lot of little printing and stuff in here. It's just very, very nicely done. Very awesome. And definitely my favorite of the group because I love Auto World. But pretty cool. As far as are they collectible, I think nowadays they're going to be a little bit more collectible when they put this number on here that they're only making, less than 1,500 of each casting. However, the chase pieces, there's 6 chase pieces per release because there are, technically 6 chase pieces to share between every other release. Explain that because there's a version A and there's a version B, but there's only one Ultra Red for the version A and version B. So I explained that several times in multiples of my videos. But yeah, so anyway, there is a chase piece, but there are a ton of chase pieces because you can get an ultra red of every casting that they put out. And of course, it's very limited to the castings that they put out. There's only been 3 releases of this, and a lot of the castings were actually, in this most recent release, all of those castings were already out before. So not a whole lot of variety in there, but very, very high quality for the price and very good value. As far as being, gaining value as time goes on, the mainline releases haven't really much, the mass-produced ones, but the Ultra Reds from that release go from generally about $15 to $25 a piece, and that's about it. But at the right price, these cars are definitely a high value, and I really enjoy the Auto World Deluxe line. So there is that. Let's take a look at the next one. Okay, and for the last 2, I would consider what our oddballs are going to be here. This one is Maisto. And Maisto, it's kind of interesting because they really haven't been steadily released. Mostly these are found at some Targets and Hobby Lobbies right now. You can find some premium Maisto. Their garbage line, which is basically like 60 cents to $1, can be found at some dollar stores. And not very nice stuff. This stuff is pretty cool though. They got exaggerated features, but a lot of weird little selection and kind of a neat little thing. So no chases in the Maisto line. As far as packaging goes, it's unique to whatever series that it's in. This is the Exotics series we have right here. This Porsche 918 Spider, which is a pretty cool car. And actually, let's open this one. This will be one of the cars, the only car I think we're going to crack here in this video. But here it is, and it's basically the same kind of construction as the rest of these. So pretty neat. So the cardboard is unique to the series, so you're going to get a lot of different car designs depending on what series it is. This is the Exotics from Maisto Design. You've had the Maisto All-Stars that were probably the most frequently released version of these cars. Generally, they're about $3-ish. No chases. They have themed releases. Features would be metal bodies, plastic bases. They are screwed together, so you would be able to unscrew these, which is kind of cool. All of them have screws instead of rivets, each one of these. Rubber non-generic wheels, which is cool. So they have pretty cool wheels and tires, rubber tires. Pretty neat wheels. Pretty highly detailed as well. All of them have headlights here and taillights on each one of these models. So that is very nice. I guess the only gripe anybody would ever have with these Maistos are they do tend to have a little bit of exaggerated features, but that's okay. Hot Wheels does generally as well. The other gripe might be that they're a little large for scale and maybe not look as great next to a Hot Wheel or something like that, just because they do tend to run not quite to scale. So this Porsche and this Chevy should not be really close to the same size. This Porsche should definitely not be bigger than the Chevy as far as I know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I doubt it. Excuse me. But yeah. So there's your Maisto. Good quality control. From what I've seen, very good quality control. I don't see many with issues. I haven't really seen any in the pegs with issues. Doesn't seem to be very popular. Not super collectible. Kind of seems a little juvenile, the line does, but they do definitely have some really nice looking pieces. This Porsche is definitely one of those. So I think it's a pretty good value for the money, and I think it's a very interesting brand. I think it's interesting that they come up with a bunch of different stuff. But they're really not that available. I guess you can get them on, I never really look for them online too much. I'm sure you can get them online, no problem. Recently, I've really only seen them at either Hobby Lobby or Super Targets. So that's that. So here is a little touch on Maisto. Let me know what you think about that brand in the comments down below. Let's move up to our last one. Okay, lastly, let's talk a little bit about Jada Toys. Now, Jada does sort of fit into this bunch. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, they're definitely not 1/64 scale. However, they do say that they are. definitely a lot bigger than 1/64 scale, but interesting and in the price range that we're looking for, which is around $4, and pretty cool. So they're found at Walmart's, some Targets, some Toys R Us's. I don't think a lot of the 1/64 stuff is found at Targets. Recently, they've been popping up at Toys R Us with the JDM Tuners series, but definitely an interesting brand. No chases in this. The packaging is typically a clamshell. This is what this most current series. Here's JDM Tuners. Here's your 2009 Nissan GTR R35, and definitely a huge one. This is out of the package, so we can remove it. Take a look at it, which I think I just showed it in my recent weekly video. But as you can see, it's pretty big. Here's the back of the card that shows the whole rest of the series. So all the card art is similar to that. Here's an older one, Rolling on Dub series or Sweet Low series. Definitely, you know, they kind of release whatever's popular at the time. So obviously with that JDM Tuners thing, here's something that probably was popular a while ago. The Donk Box and Bubble series. Here's your Buick Regal. And currently this is only at Walmart series. This is the Jada Toys. You got your Transformers series. So generally they kind of do whatever's popular at the time. They had Fast and the Furious cars and whatnot. All their cars are pretty large, much bigger than 1/64 scale. But there is some stuff to be said about Jada. I mean, here's another one in the Just Trucks series, Bronco. The lifted stuff typically has a plastic base, but all this other stuff, so this has a plastic base, but all this other stuff, here's one from the Fast and Furious series, all this other thing has a metal base, metal body, rubber tires with tread, wheels that are non-generic, and generally pretty cool looking. Here's kind of an interesting one. This is a police car. These used to be found at Walmart's. I don't think you see them there anymore. This one does have opening doors. That's pretty cool. And it's got a very detailed interior with a little laptop inside of there. Probably won't be able to see that in this the way I'm filming this today, but pretty neat. So that is Jada, and Jada is definitely, I would say, an interesting brand. Now, are they very collectible? I don't know. Probably not so much. They're more, I think, marketed, I don't know, for preteens, teenagers, I guess. Not trying to offend anybody that's into Jada cars, but I think one of the reasons why they're not as collectible is just the fact that they are not in 1/64 scale or even really close, which makes it hard to display them next to your other cars in your collection. If you collect multiple scales, maybe this is something for you. If not, you know, maybe not. But it is cool that they do, you know, themed releases. Again, just like the Maisto, these tend to have exaggerated features, like this Firebird, for example. Just tends to have a little bit exaggerated features. A lot of them either lowered or whatever. The stance is altered. They're not really stock vehicles, but that's okay. They don't have to be. Here's a Ford GT. So definitely not to scale or anything, but overall I think very good quality, and a good value for the money. If you can get them, you know, $4 or whatever a piece, I think that's a pretty good value. Especially you're getting a metal and metal casting and rubber tires with wheels, which I think the only other brand that we've looked at today that has metal on metal and rubber is going to be the Hot Wheels Car Culture series, and that one doesn't even have front or rear detail. And these, essentially, you get almost for about the same price. They're just not Hot Wheels, and they're not 1/64 scale. And, you know, maybe they're a little childish with some of the designs, and maybe they kind of just follow the trend and do whatever's popular at the time. But I think they do a decent job of making these cars. So let me know what you think about Jada down in the comments below. Do you own any of these? Do you have any of those in your collection? And that's going to be it. Let's go ahead and wrap this up and summarize. Okay, let's quickly try to sum this up. So all these vehicles are around the same price range defined in stores. sort of around the same price range. Some of them are a little bit more expensive than others. The Greenlight tops that, is the most expensive, at least in most cases. Depends on when you're getting them. If you're not getting them off the pegs, though, Hot Wheels might top it as far as trying to get some Bluebirds and stuff into your collection after the fact. If you didn't find them on the pegs, you might pay more for those. But all in all, around the same price. So this is what started this whole thing, was Majorette for me, trying to look at all the cars. Like, okay, so these are going to be $3.50. Let's compare them to everyone else. So Majorette, obviously, we get some moving parts. That's pretty cool. That's kind of unique to it. Opening doors. Sprung suspension is another unique feature that's not shared with anything else. That does make them pretty cool. They do typically have lens detail on the front, which the only other one that's got lens detail is the Greenlight. We got detail all around, front and back, which Hot Wheels lacks that. No detail on the rear or front of these cars. Excuse me, and a generally good selection of castings, but some of them look a lot better than others. And this GTR looks probably one of the best looking recent releases from Majorette. So, kind of neat, right? But here's this little summarization of the rest of them. Jada, you get metal body, metal base, which is the same thing that Hot Wheels has, metal body, metal base, but you do get detail all the way around. Big flaw with Jada is going to be that they are not to scale, definitely larger. Now, Majorettes aren't generally to scale necessarily either, and neither are Maistos. So that's 3 of this group that generally are not to scale. The rest of them are pretty close to 1/64, I would say. Pretty nice though, good paint job, good detail, metal all around, heavy casting, pretty neat. Maisto, you get plastic bases, metal bodies, the casting screwed together, rubber tires, neat selection of vehicles, but also exaggerated features, quite alike the Jada. So these are more of a juvenile kind of line, I would say. Young teenager kind of deal. Maybe not necessarily an adult collectible, but I still think they're pretty cool. And then we got your M2s. Now the M2s, I guess we could group together with Auto World and probably Greenlight as far as features go. Metal bodies, plastic bases. The Greenlight does have some lens detail up front, but that's not necessary for a motor rolled casting. It's one of the few that does. Most of them do not. Rubber tires, detail on the front, detail on the rear. The M2 does have some extra pieces and stuff, such as that the bumpers, but those can always fall off. The Auto World has really good quality. It's a very heavy. It's definitely the heavy. This is the heaviest car for sure out of these 3. And it's a bit smaller than the GTR. Also, Auto World should be true 1/64 scale. But they do have plastic tires with tread. That's one thing that I guess the other 2 do have. The Auto World, sorry, does not have rubber tires. It's got plastic tires, and generic to each casting. There's only a couple different types of wheels. With these, you're going to get wheels that are appropriate for each casting. So that's kind of an edge up for M2 and Greenlight on the Auto World. Plus, there's a lot more of the Greenlight and the M2 to collect in the Auto World. But of course, still, I'm a true fan of Auto World, and I love this brand, and I really dig this car. So there are those, and then you got your Hot Wheels and Matchbox, which Matchbox does a great job. You get detail all around, metal body. You do have plastic base, though, and rubber tires. The only thing basically separating these 2 are the fact that this has a plastic base, and it's got detail all around, so it's got headlights and taillights on all of their castings, and your Hot Wheels line does not have front or back detail, but it does come with a metal base, and it's very substantially heavy. Now, both of these come with actual Real Riders, Mattel Real Riders now, and both of them are pretty cool. So let me know what you think is the most collectible series, what you think has the most value out of these 8 series. Which one do you have the most of? Which one do you get the most excited about when a new series comes out? And yeah, just let me know what you think in the comments down below. And thanks for watching this video. I know it was an extremely long one. I hope you enjoyed it, and have a good day.